Obviously, there's been breaking news going on for a few hours in Charlottesville, Virginia. There was a white nationalist or racist rally there that they were protesting the removal of a Confederate commemoratory or statue or something. There was a lot of Confederate flags and white nationalists, white supremacists rallying. So, of course, there was counter-protests. The thing has become so big that Governor Terry McAuliffe of Virginia has declared a state of emergency. And now, I believe, within the last 15, 20 minutes, a car ran over protesters. It's not clear from looking at the video to me whether it was a car running over the white nationalists, whether it was a car running over the counter-protests, but a car ran over a lot of protesters and then reversed and ran over them again. Obviously, I'll try to keep you updated as much as I can. I'm going to read you the story for the Washington Post so you know a little bit about it, and then show you some tweets, including from our president. After a morning of violent clashes between white nationalists and counter-protesters, police ordered hundreds of people out of a downtown park, putting an end to a noon rally before it even began. Governor Terry McAuliffe declared a state of emergency shortly before 11 a.m., blaming the violence on, quote, mostly out-of-state protesters. Quote, I am disgusted by the hatred, bigotry, and violence these protesters have brought to our state over the past 24 hours, McAuliffe said. Other elected leaders in Virginia and elsewhere are also urged peace, blasting, Other elected leaders in Virginia and elsewhere also urge peace, blasting the white supremacist views on display in Charlottesville as ugly. U.S. House Speaker Paul Ryan called the display, quote, repugnant. But President Trump, known for his rapid-fire tweets that fueled his candidacy and have punctuated his presidency, remained silent throughout the morning. It was after 1 o'clock in the afternoon when he weighed in, writing on Twitter, quote, we all in caps, must be united and condemn all that hate stands for. There is no place for this kind of violence in America. Let's come together as one. Let me tell you one more time what he said. We all must be united and condemn all that hate stands for. There is no place for this kind of violence in America. Let's come together as one. Before I give you my thought on what he said, let me tell you what Senator Marco Rubio tweeted. Not the biggest fan on his policies, but I believe this tweet was very strong. He tweeted, nothing patriotic about Nazis, the KKK, or white supremacists. It's the direct opposite of what America seeks to be. Hashtag Charlottesville. In another tweet, these haters in Charlottesville are agitators in search of relevance and publicity for a vile cause very few people support. So most importantly, Rubio directly denounced Nazis, the KKK, or white supremacists. In contrast, the current president tried to couch the whole thing as we all must be united and condemn all that hate stands for. There is no place for this kind of violence in America. Let's come together as one. We all don't need to be anything. You need to denounce white supremacy, the KKK, and racist. This continues a pattern by President Trump when he was a candidate. He went on CNN in an interview with Jake Tapper and pretended not even to know what the KKK was, pretended not to know who David Duke was, and essentially did a dog whistling interview. He dog whistled throughout the campaign. He pretends that this is a problem of hatred on all sides and we must denounce all hatred. No, no, no. If you're the president of the United States and there are white supremacists with Confederate and KKK flags marching in Virginia or anywhere else, you must denounce that if you are the president of the United States. Because the United States has long, at least by verbal politics, denounced the KKK and racism. Now, it is their right if they want to have a protest of a Confederate statue or memorabilia being taken down. Even the most vile people have a right to protest. But when it gets violent, and these people are partly carrying out that violence, and you are trying to create a false equivalency. We all must stand together against hate. When will you explicitly and verbally come out against white supremacy, the KKK, and racism? It's very simple. You're either against white supremacy, racism, and the KKK, or you're not. There are some things in politics that have gray areas and are not black and white. This is not one of them. I don't care if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, or an alien. You cannot play casual with white supremacy. You should not be subtle and, skim around the edges that, quote, we all must be united and condemn all that hate stands for. Well, why are you so opposed to standing out strongly, courageously, and clearly against the KKK and white supremacists? Is it because a lot of your base are white supremacists and KKK members? No. I met a lot of Trump supporters over the last year and a half. They're not all racist, and I've made that clear. I met a lot of good people that voted for Donald Trump. They're in economic hardship, they're in economic despair, and they're angry, they're hopeless, and a lot of those people told me, if not Trump, I would have voted for Bernie Sanders. So they're not all racist. So let me be clear, they are not all racist. Yeah, but there's a lot of racists in the Democratic Party, too, and they don't know it. So you can't just say racist are Trump supporters. But if you're the president of the United States and you just can't come out very clearly and say, I am against the KKK, I am against white supremacy, that there should not be Confederate statutes, put it in a museum, don't have it out in the public, then there's something wrong with that. There is. And you know what? Credit to Nikki Haley when she was governor. Whether she did it for political reasons or moral reasons, she said that Confederate statue and flag should come down. There's been other Republican leaders who have agreed with that. But when the President of the United States, forget his policies for a second, when his character tries to be casual and vague and say we all must stand against hate. Well, I saw Confederate flags at your rallies, President Trump. You didn't say anything. And you're not saying anything now. And we will see. I can't tell you. I don't know this car that ran people over. I don't know if it was one of these white nationalists who ran people over. I don't know if it was one of the counter-protesters. I don't know. This is all happening live as I'm live. But the bottom line is, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. I don't care if you did like Hillary Clinton or you didn't. I don't care if you're a Bernie person, a Hillary person. We all must agree to come out strongly against racism. We all must agree to come out strongly against white supremacy. And until the President of the United States stops fucking around and, dog whistling to his base and not coming out strongly. I mean, how many times have you seen Trump tweet immediately if there's violence or a terror attack when it's an Arab or an African American that perpetrates it? Have you heard a damn thing from him when a white conservative starts shooting up people? I haven't. Did you hear anything from him about this white guy who shot up this baseball field other than, this was a congressional baseball game and this was awful? Did you hear anything from him when white people are shooting up and threatening Planned Parenthoods? No. So I don't care if you're a Trump supporter watching. If you're not, I don't care if you're a TYT viewer who only wants to criticize the Democratic Party but doesn't want to criticize Trump. I'm telling you right now, if you're progressive, but forget progressive or conservative, if you're American, don't just talk about racial equality. Don't just talk about, Black Lives Matter. Don't just talk about, I'm not a racist. Make your president honor those values. If you're a Trump supporter and you really believe it's okay for him to kind of be like, we all must stand together and kumbaya, when there's white supremacists at rallies in Virginia and beyond. And I know there's trolls watching right now and hating me, but you know what? The bottom line is, Trump, don't talk about that you want to bring jobs back. Don't talk about that you want to make America great if you are dog whistling and trying to evoke sentiments from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 100 years before. Period. Mandela Barnes. We'll get to why I'm interviewing you, but what are your thoughts?
Hey, my thoughts are the events in Charlottesville have been brought to you in part by Donald Trump. It's his rhetoric. You won't hear him condemn what's going on there because he'll lose the base. He always brags about still maintaining the base. Well, if that's gone, without the support of racists, Donald Trump wouldn't have won the Electoral College.
I think that something that's alarming to me is, you know, a lot of times there's politicians that become president by kind of selling out some of their principles, cater to this constituency or this constituency. I don't think Trump believed a lot of the things he said on the campaign trail. But when you become president, there are moments when you're tested that you either have moral courage or you don't. You either have basic principles of what America stands for or you don't. You either say, you know what, I am willing to piss off my base. I am willing to even lose re-election. I don't have a lot of great things to say about Bill Clinton, but in 1995, he risked losing re-election by saying, no, I'm not gonna cater to Newt Gingrich. Yeah. And if the government shuts down, so be it. There were cases that I think George W. Bush, after 9/11, I don't have many things to say good about George W. Bush, but he said, no, Muslims are not the enemy of America. John McCain, who I don't have anything good policy-wise to say about, in 2008, when he was running for president, there was a racist who came on stage and said Obama's he's another, and he's a Muslim, and McCain shot him down. There are moments that you either have the moral courage of your conviction and you are not racist or not, and I have not seen that from this president.
Well, Donald Trump's locked into bigotry. You just heard David Duke. I mean, he talked about how this is what the Trump presidency represents. This is what the campaign represented. All this has come to fruition with the commander-in-chief, supporting. I mean, he can't remove himself from what's going on in Charlottesville. To remove himself from Charlottesville will be to effectively remove himself from the office that he was elected to.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, we got to remind people, listen, I don't regret the way I covered the campaign. I didn't cover Donald Trump a lot. I've explained why over and over. Frankly, I didn't think I needed to be the 20,000th person to report the same thing today about what Donald Trump tweeted. I'm very proud of the things I've covered. With that said, it's on all the media, independent, corporate, progressive, conservative, to just condemn when something is wrong. And you know what? When the President of the United States, listen, I actually think these white supremacists, it's America. If they want to protest peacefully, God bless. Even these despicable, what's that awful church that protests people? Westboro. If they want to get a permit and have a protest, God bless you. I don't think you should be doing it at funerals, but in America, free speech is even for vile speech, in my opinion. But when you do that and you become violent, and when the President of the United States can't condemn that, that's a problem. That's a problem. And I don't really care if you think, progressive economics works or trickle-down economics works. I don't care what your political point of view is. I don't care if you think I'm establishment or progressive. We all must agree on basic facts that America was founded on racism. Even before the black people, we fucking exterminated the Indians. And that was hella racist. America was founded on racism, and if the President of the United States isn't going to condemn it, well, he represents America for better or worse until he's not in office anymore. So if you're a conservative voter, if you voted for Trump, I'm not telling you to abandon Donald Trump, but I'm telling you, hold him accountable. These kind of tweets, this kind of dog whistling, pretending you don't know what the KKK is when you do, pretending you don't know who David Duke is when you do, putting a white nationalist in your administration in Steve Bannon, this should be condemned on all sides.
Stephen Miller, Seb Gorka, the list goes on.
Stephen Miller, it should be condemned on all sides. So I don't think that's controversial, and if you don't like it, go somewhere else.